Okay, RPGRules Powers tutorial number 1. So these are distinct from the characters and powers tutorials where we put Rainbow Guy together and sort of gave you a bit of an overview and a guided tour of the powers system. Here we're going to make one of each type of power from scratch and go over all the settings thoroughly, more like a kind of reference than tutorial. So we've got a copy of Miss Amazing here, a woman with 100 superpowers. And we're going to start off making a PowerDirect. So we'll just go PowerDirect, make one here, and we'll go through all these settings here. We will drop that into her powers array. There it is. And let's go. So the first thing you get after these settings here are energy cost. Battery cost is for characters with a battery, like Wonderstar in the Universe Gun game. Can generally ignore that. Give it a cooldown of 3 seconds, that can often be 0, and we'll leave all of them like they are for now. We're going to make this do crushing damage. We will give it the psionic tint, because it's sort of like a telekinetic push that we make in here. Punch right, alternate animations, and we'll give it some effects. So it starts off with an energy trail on a leading hand, which then gives the energy halo when the power goes off, and does the spang effect, little kind of cartoon hit on the target's chest. Get it to do 2 to 6 damage of type crushing. And we will get it to do one effect, which will be knockback. So direct powers basically go straight from the target, from the caster to the target, with no intervening projectile or beam or anything. And if we go and test that now, we should be able to push these robots around. Did I not give her that power? Miss Amazing. Hang on. Miss Amazing, powers, PowerDirect. Let's just redo that again. 0, PowerDirect. That's it, yeah. So, yep, direct powers need a target. You can't set them off without a target. Boom. And it happens instantaneously. We'll just slow time down a bit there. Press P to bring up this debug window, and you can see the energy trail on her fist, the halo that goes off when it hits, and instantaneously it causes knockback to the target. And the target's taking damage. I think these dummies have got 100% resistance, so they're going to be taking between 1 and 3 damage. That one took 2 there, because we said 2 to 6 damage base. Okay, so what can we do to jazz this up? The PowerDirect. We could, for starters, make it a charge. Let's have a look at all the things charge power does. So that opens up a whole new bunch of settings. We'll say you can charge it up for 2 seconds. It's going to take another 20 energy to charge it up for that. Battery cost we're ignoring, but that works the same as the energy. And that means it'll do 2 damage when you tap it, 6 damage when you charge it up. The min and max damage vary between different modes for the powers. So now it's 1 damage that way because of the robots taking half damage. If we fully charge it up and miss, fully charge it up, boom, does the whole 3 damage now. Okay, not bad. Let's have a look at some other charge settings. So we have these ones here: max radius, max status duration, max self status duration, and max buff strength. Let's tweak the max buff strength. So the knockback that we're doing, if we have a look at that, is strength 75. Let's drop that down to 50 just now. And we'll go to that PowerDirect again. and we can say max buff strength is going to be 3. So it's going to do 3 times the knockback if you charge it up fully. Otherwise it's just going to do the 50 knockback. Here we go. You know, so as well as the damage varying with charge. So that's 50 knockback there. But if we charge it up, boom, it does 150 knockback and really sends him flying. And most status effects can scale like that. Let's try that. Instead of knockback, we could put weaken, which we made for Rainbow Guy earlier. Now weaken does minus 50% to resistances. So let's see how that works with that maximum buff strength on the PowerDirect. Boom. He now has minus 50% to all resistances. If we're going to get this guy over here and charge it up though, 1, 2, 3, miss. 3. Right, he's now carrying a minus 150% to all resistances, because we charged that power up for the whole 2 seconds. Characters miss amazing, and it had a max buff strength of 3, so you get triple the effect on a full charge. If we do an intermediate value, say half charge it up, then he's now got minus 111%, you know, just over halfway between 50% and 150% there. Oh, and that weaken, I think, makes you fall over when it wears off. Yep, so that's what's going on there. So we can do some similar things. We can change the buff duration with charge. So we could say the status duration is for 10 seconds normally, but on a full charge the maximum status duration will be 20, and it'll scale in between as well. Let's have a look at that. So now when we tap that, he's now got that counting down for 10 seconds, minus 50 to all resistances. But when we do it to this robot and fully charge it up, he's now got it for 20 seconds and a much stronger buff as well. Do it to this one for half strength, and he's now got 15 seconds worth of buff at a sort of intermediate value. So you probably don't want to do both of these. Like, you might have a hold power that lasts longer the more you charge it up. But a debuff, like, you know, reducing resistance or increasing your own damage bonus or whatever, you could use that buff strength. I'll just show another example of that. I'm going to create another PowerDirect, and we'll call this Force Cocoon, and it's going to do the damage shield. I think it's force field buff is a damage shield. So force field buff is a damage shield that puts a 20 hit point shield around you against physical attacks. Go back to Force Cocoon, and let's make that a, go type magic. Magic color, we'll make that a charge. We'll make it apply to self and allies. Charges up over 2 seconds, and the buff strength is 2. So if you charge it up fully, you get double the hit points on your damage shield. We'll give that to Miss Amazing now. Put that in our powers. There we go, Force Cocoon. And we will see that if we do a Force Cocoon, we get a 20 hit point shield there for 10 seconds. Beat the robot up for a bit. If we do it again but charge it up fully, whoops, we can't select the robot, we have to select ourselves. It's now a 40 hit point shield because we charged it up fully. So, you know, you can apply the same charging to self and ally support powers as well have a bigger heal, a bigger force field, the more you charge it up and so on. So while we're here, let's have a look at maintain powers. So the three modes for a typical PowerDirect are charge, instant, maintain and charge. Move to and block are used especially by power move to and power block. You don't really want to be set in them. It should, I'm going to fix it up so you can't select them if it's not a power move to. So with the maintain, they have a duration as well, an extra energy cost. But a maintain is where you channel in the power and it goes off every tick, like every 0.5 seconds or something. You say when you apply any status effects, it can be the first tick, the final tick, or every tick. So for this PowerDirect that does weaken, we could make that every tick. We'll put these back to 0 for now. And this means it's going to apply weaken for 2 seconds. Every 0.5 seconds, that'll be 4 times. I think. Could be 5. Let's find out. So we go PowerDirect, 2, 3, 4. And he now has 5 stacks of weaken on him. Okay, so you get 1 at the beginning, 1 at half a second, 1 second, 1.5, 2 seconds. Oh, and each one of them is making him fall over at the end. So that's a PowerDirect where, as we maintain it, it you know, keeps hitting the target. And the damage there, 2 to 6. The first tick will do 2 damage, the final tick will do 6 damage, and they'll scale up in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 12. Right, and each one, of course, is getting further complicated by the stacks of weaken on the robot. There. Yep, so that's a maintain. With the force cocoon, we could make that a maintain as well. And we'll say the status effect only applies on the final tick. So that means you have to charge it up to get the force field. So let's have a look at that now. Just tap it, nothing happens. Let the power charge down fully, and we get the full force field there. At a charge value of 0. Yep, so that's charges and maintains covered there. Now, what other little settings do we have? We've got, let's go to the PowerDirect again. Let's make it a charge again. Let's, tell you what, let's make it an instant again. So it's just an instant thing that applies weaken. We've got a cooldown. Let's have a look at max uses. Say we can only use this power 3 times, and it never reloads. How does that work? We go 1. You can see a little 3 in the corner there. 2. It's got a cooldown on it. 3, and then disappears from our tray, never to appear again. That's mainly used for devices you pick up, like you might pick up a bunch of grenades and you only have 3 of them. You know, as a drop from an enemy. Mission means it'll restore every mission, never's intended for where it actually saves that power, the number of charges between missions, like when you pick up some stun grenades from an enemy. Or you can have an action. So let's say we have an action where we use console. It's going to take a second to carry out that action. The reloading action will be interrupted by movement, damage, knockback, or being held. We'll say it's interrupted by everything. So when we've used 3 of this power 3 times, and I'm going to take the cooldown off here, we can get a special action to reload it. Let's have a look at that. So you can see we've got 3 charges, go 1, 2, 3. Now it's grayed out with 0 charges, and we have a reload action. When we do the reload action... Okay, back from fixing that bug. So if we now select this robot and use this power 3 times... Yep, get out of debug mode. Stop debugging. Right. So we'll run again. Select this robot. 2 charge, 1 charge, and then we get the reload action. When we press that, we do the animation, and in 1 second's time it reloads that power for us. So this is what you could use for like a 6-shooter gun, or a weapon or a power or whatever that needs reloading every now and then. AIs will use this, by the way, as well. They'll reload their weapons if they can, as well as the player being able to do it. So that's all the reload stuff there, and that all disappears if you set max uses back to 0. So we'll just say reload type never, max use is 0, and that all goes away again. Is it? Yeah. It's no longer relevant anyway. Range is just range. That's standard range for ranged attacks is 20 meters, 20 units. Making that bigger or smaller will change. Now, line of sight. By default, attacks need a line of sight to deliver. By default, you can't use them while you're holding an object, and by default, attacks will root. So let's change all of them and see how that changes things. So now, we can target him, run past, and while running around we can fire off our attack still. Previously we'd have to stop to use it. Usable while held. We can... Do we not have amazing strength here? Okay. No, we don't. Let's just fix that up. Miss Amazing. Passive powers will have 1. Amazing strength boost. There we go. So now we'll be able to pick up objects that are quite heavy. Target that guy there, pick up a small rock, and even though our hands are busy, we can still use this power. It's not the best animation to use, as you can see. And of course there are problems with the reload. We've turned the reload off. Yeah. Yep. Now we also don't need a line of sight anymore. So that means we can actually keep that guy targeted, go and hide behind something, and still use the power. We can even go up here and can't see him anymore, but can still use the power and see it affecting his health bar. So that's quite handy. Prince Cosmic, for example, has line of sight unticked on a lot of his teleport powers, so you can sort of sneak around, hide behind an object, and then boom, pull someone into the behind the stack of crates with him or whatever. Okay, so going back to PowerDirect, what else have we got? Icon tint, leave all that. Weapon damage factor. So instead of a power having its own damage, we can say it does like 1 times weapon damage. Weapon items, like if we look for stun baton, here's a piece of equipment here, does 5 to 10 damage. So if we say our power does 1 times weapon damage and you're wielding a stun baton, you will do 5 to 10 damage. If it says weapon damage factor of 2, you will do 10 to 20 damage with it, and so on. So that's more for fantasy games where you want to have an attack like, say, a Paladin's Zeal, which does 2 times weapon damage as fire damage, or something like that. Or, you know, Heavy Blow, Light Tap, which does half weapon damage, but is very quick. That's where you sort of use that kind of thing. Let's clear that stun baton. Okay, so that's the weapon damage there. Armor piercing. armor piercing varies between 0 and 100, and it's basically what percentage of the target's resistance do you ignore. So if we put that up to 100, we will ignore all the target's resistance. These robots have got 100% resistance, meaning they take half damage, but when we hit it now with our 2 to 6 damage, it's doing 4, 6, that was a critical, 2, 4, 4, 10. Yeah, it's doing full damage to them and ignoring the resistance with armor piercing. Armor piercing can be countered by having the hardened stat pumped up by a buff. Accuracy will increase the accuracy of this one attack. It'll multiply your chance to hit by accuracy, so you might have an very accurate attack has 1.5, 50% extra chance to hit, and so on. Status effects and duration, we've covered them before. You can have whatever status effects you like on the end of an attack, and they will all share the same duration. If you want one of them to have a shorter duration than the others, you can go to the status effect and put in a fixed duration. Like, say if we wanted to have a 2-second stun and a 10-second weaken, we'd make a status effect called 2-second stun and put that in there. Self effects are effects that apply to yourself. Critical bonus and severity bonus. Let's talk about them. So, critical bonus, your base critical chance to hit and your base critical severity are stored in RPGRules, resources, RPG settings are up here. You've got a 5% chance to critical and a 50% severity, so you do 150% damage, 50% extra when you critical. You can override this for a particular power. So let's go to town on this one. Say this is going to have a 45 critical bonus, so it'll critical half the time now, and a severity bonus of 50, so it'll do double damage when it's a critical. I'll take that weaken off and replace that with knockback again, just so we can see a bit more clearly what's going on. So when we get a yellow damage number now, we should get them half the time. 4, not critical, not critical. What happened there? Knocked him through the floor, had a nav mesh accident. Critical, 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 not critical, critical. Yeah, so you can see the number of critical hits we're getting has increased dramatically now from putting those things in. Normally you might say have a martial arts power has a 5% critical bonus or something like that. Now we've got the tag here. You can tag every power with a member of this enumeration as to how the power works. And these literally do nothing by themselves. So you can say this is a skill, this is a mutant power, this is a psionic power, it's based on orgone or whatever, and I've stuck orgone in there as my favourite bit of pseudoscience. You can put whatever you like into this list. It's in the customenum.cs somewhere. This doesn't really matter by itself, like I said, but you can have other things which read this and check whether they should apply, like power nulls. You might have a power null that only works on superpowers, like in the prison levels of the Universe Gun demo. So anything that's tagged as technology or skill will still work in there, but powers that are mutant, alien, orgone, etc. get turned off. You can have a copy power buff, where you can copy powers from another character. That might be screened out by tag here as well. You might have a payload that only adds to technology powers, for example. Does extra electrical damage for technology powers. I think I've got that on some of the equipment. Yeah, so that's that. And then we've got special checks here, which are caster conditions and target conditions. So these are just general conditions, which will be covered in fully in their own tutorial. And you can say, for example, think I've got a grounded one. This only works if the caster is grounded if they're standing on Earth. That's one I put together for Antea. So you can see, even when we select someone, this power doesn't work at the moment. Until we go and stand on the Earth over here, and suddenly it lights up. So we can use it now. We can use it nicely because we don't have line of sight. But if we don't stand on a metal surface, it stops working again. Let's go and stand on this boulder. And now it's working again. And now we can use it. Yeah, so that's actually doing a check of what physics material you're standing on, that particular one. But you can put in there whatever you like. You know, it only works if the character has a certain caster has a certain buff on them, that sort of thing. Let's make that none again. Could have one that only works when you're flying. Target conditions, similarly, if we do the grounded one, it only works if the target's standing on the Earth. I'm not too sure how I'm going to demonstrate this because I need to be able to... Right, so if we select him, we can't use the power. I think I'm going to have to resort to scene view modifications here. If we select this guy who we had targeted, oops. And test dummy 1, drag him onto the Earth. Oh, now we can use the power. But yeah, now we've got a knockback attack, and if we knock him off the Earth, or while he's in mid-flight, we can't use it. Yep, can't use it now. Oh, and we've got Throwbot's attention, great. It's so hard to resist this. Okay, so I think that's the end of the settings I wanted to cover here. We've got the caster condition, their AI conditions, we'll look at them later. And then finally the editor setting, prototype power, that's just for the power creation system. Generally don't try to put anything in there that's not already in there. Yep, so that is PowerDirect.